The Vanishing of the Lakeview Hiker Chapter 1. Into the wilderness the sun rose over Lakeview National Park, casting a warm glow on the towering trees and shimmering lakes. It was the perfect day for adventure. Sarah, a spirited 26-year-old with a love for the great outdoors, had been planning this hiking trip with her friends for months. Accompanied by Alex, Mia, and David, they set out early that Saturday morning, laughter echoing through the air as they packed their gear into the trunk of Alex's SUV. As they drove along the winding roads, anticipation filled the vehicle. The group had been friends since college, and this trip was a chance to reconnect and escape the pressures of their busy lives. Sarah had always been the most adventurous among them, eager to explore the trails that stretched for miles through the dense forest. When they arrived at the park, they were greeted by the fresh scent of pine and the distant sound of birds chirping. The group took a moment to appreciate the beauty around them, snapping pictures to capture their excitement. After gathering their gear and reviewing the map, they set off toward the popular Skyview Overlook, a 2-mile hike that promised breathtaking views of the valley below. Chapter 2. The perfect day. The sun warmed their backs as they hiked, the path meandering through towering trees and wildflowers. They laughed and joked, sharing stories of their college days while enjoying the serenity of nature. Sarah was in her element, leading the way with enthusiasm. "Come on, slowpokes," she called over her shoulder, her ponytail swinging as she picked up the pace. Alex, the unofficial leader of the group, chuckled and urged the others to keep up. As they reached a clearing, they paused to catch their breath. The view ahead was stunning, rolling hills bathed in sunlight, the lake sparkling like a jewel in the distance. It was a moment of pure bliss, and they all took a moment to soak it in. "Let's take a picture," Mia suggested, pulling out her phone. They huddled together, arms around each other, smiles plastered on their faces. Sarah, always the photographer, offered to take a few shots. "Just give me a minute," she said, stepping away from the group to get the perfect angle. The others watched her, then turned to continue chatting, unaware of the ticking clock. Chapter 3. The Disappearance. After a few minutes, Sarah called out, "Hey you guys! Look at this shot." But when they turned back to look, she was gone. "Sarah?" Alex called, a hint of worry creeping into his voice. "Where did she go?" David asked, scanning the area. "She was right here," Mia said, her heart beginning to race. Panic set in as they realized that Sarah had vanished without a trace. "Let's retrace our steps," Alex suggested, leading the way back down the trail they had just come from. They called her name, the sound echoing through the trees, but there was no response. Minutes turned into an hour, and dread settled in their stomachs. "What if she fell?" Mia whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. "Let's not jump to conclusions," Alex said, trying to remain calm. "We'll find her. She can't be far." Chapter 4. The search begins. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, they decided to report her missing. They rushed back to the park entrance, their hearts pounding as they explained the situation to the park ranger. Within moments, a search team was assembled, and volunteers from the nearby campground joined the effort. The searchlights pierced through the darkness, illuminating the trees as they combed through the area. Hours passed, and exhaustion weighed heavily on the friends. Every rustle of leaves sent shivers down their spines, filled with hope and fear. "Where could she be?" David muttered, staring into the dark abyss of the forest. "We need to keep looking," Alex insisted, determination etched on his face. "She wouldn't just leave us." Chapter 5. The community rallies. The next day, the search intensified. Local news outlets picked up the story, and the community rallied together. Volunteers flooded into the park, forming search parties and spreading out along the trails. Sarah's family was devastated, their pleas for her safe return touching the hearts of many. "Sarah is a strong girl," her mother said during an interview. "She loves nature, she knows how to survive out here. We just want her back." Days passed, and with each sunset, hope began to wane. Sarah's friends were exhausted, guilt gnawing at them. They replayed the moments leading up to her disappearance, trying to figure out what went wrong. "Maybe we should have stayed together," Mia lamented one evening as they sat by the campfire, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames. "We didn't know this would happen," Alex said softly. "We can't blame ourselves." Chapter 6. The breakthrough. Just as they were beginning to lose hope, a breakthrough came when a hiker reported seeing a woman matching Sarah's description near a secluded area by the lake. Excitement surged through the search team as they rushed to investigate the lead. The area was dense with foliage, and the air was thick with tension as they scoured the ground for any sign of her. Hours turned into an agonizing wait as the search team combed through the brush. Finally, a shout rang out. "We found something." A volunteer waved them over, holding up Sarah's backpack. "It's hers," Alex exclaimed, hope rekindling in his heart. "She's close." Chapter 7. The discovery. As they followed the trail from where the backpack was found, the search team stumbled upon a shallow cave hidden behind a thicket of bushes. It was dark inside and the air was cool and damp. "Sarah," they called, their voices echoing against the stone walls. To their astonishment, a faint voice replied, "Help! I'm here." Rushing inside, they found Sarah huddled against the wall, her clothes dirty and her face pale. Relief washed over them as they rushed to her side. "Sarah, we were so worried," Mia cried, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so glad you found me," Sarah said weakly, her voice barely a whisper. "I got lost trying to find my way back to you." Chapter 8. The aftermath. Once Sarah was safely out of the cave, her friends overwhelmed her with hugs, relief flooding their hearts. She explained that she had wandered off the trail to explore a different path and had soon realized she was lost. The wilderness had disoriented her, and she had sought refuge in the cave when night fell, hoping to find her way back come morning. The search team escorted her back to the park entrance, where her family was waiting. The reunion was emotional, filled with tears of joy and gratitude. In the weeks that followed, the friends processed the harrowing experience. They spent time together, reflecting on their bond and the importance of staying connected, especially in the wilderness. Chapter 9. A new beginning. Though the fear of losing Sarah had been a nightmare, it had also brought them closer together. They vowed to never take their adventures for granted again, planning future hikes with a renewed sense of caution and respect for nature. As they sat together one evening, reminiscing about their harrowing experience, Sarah smiled, her spirit unbroken. "We're lucky to be together," she said softly. "Next time we stick together," Alex said with a grin. "No more wandering off." They all laughed, the tension of the past lifting as they shared stories and dreams of future adventures. The experience had changed them all, instilling a deeper appreciation for life and each other. The Miracle on the Hudson. Flight 1549. Prologue. On January 15, 2009, the skyline of New York City was just waking up to a crisp winter morning when a routine flight turned into a life-or-death situation. U.S. Airways Flight 1549, an Airbus A320, was scheduled to transport 155 passengers from LaGuardia Airport to Charlotte, North Carolina. Just minutes after takeoff, the aircraft struck a flock of Canada geese, resulting in a catastrophic dual-engine failure. What happened next would become known as the Miracle on the Hudson, a testament to human courage, quick thinking, and the indomitable will to survive. Chapter 1. The takeoff. Flight 1549 took off from LaGuardia Airport at 3:26 p.m., piloted by Captain Chesley "Sully" Sullenberger, a veteran aviator with over 19,000 flight hours to his name. His first officer, Jeffrey Skiles, was also an experienced pilot, and together they were well prepared for the flight ahead. As the plane lifted off the runway, the passengers settled in, unaware of the harrowing experience that awaited them. The Airbus A320 climbed steadily, and the passengers were greeted with the familiar sounds of in-flight announcements and the anticipation of their journey. Among them were a diverse group of individuals. business travelers, families, and tourists, all looking forward to reaching their destination. The flight was expected to take just over an hour, with clear skies and favorable weather conditions. However, at 3:27 p.m., just shortly after takeoff, disaster struck. The aircraft struck a flock of geese, resulting in a catastrophic loss of engine power. The explosion of birds against the engines was deafening, and the plane immediately began to lose altitude. Chapter 2: The Emergency in the Cockpit. Captain Sullenberger and First Officer Skiles reacted quickly. The engines sputtered and failed, leaving them with no thrust. The aircraft was now an unpowered glider, descending rapidly towards the city below. Sullenberger's extensive experience kicked in, and he began to assess the situation. With his calm demeanor, he communicated with Skiles, and the two pilots worked together to troubleshoot the situation. "Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is U.S. Airways Flight 1549. We've lost both engines. We're going down." Sullenberger transmitted as he maneuvered the aircraft in an attempt to regain control. Skiles began to check the flight manuals for emergency procedures, but there was no time for extensive troubleshooting. The aircraft was losing altitude fast, and they were quickly approaching a critical point. The towering buildings of Manhattan loomed ahead, and Sullenberger knew that landing on the streets was not an option. With seconds to spare, he made a decision that would define the course of the flight. "Prepare for a water landing," he announced, maintaining a sense of urgency but also calmness. The passengers needed to be prepared for the worst. Chapter 3: The Descent. As Sullenberger guided the plane toward the Hudson River, he quickly assessed the surrounding area. The river stretched out like a glistening ribbon, and he focused on finding a spot clear of boats and other obstacles. The daunting task of landing an aircraft on water was not one that any pilot would want to face, but Sullenberger was determined to save as many lives as possible. The passengers were unaware of the full extent of the crisis unfolding in the cockpit. The sudden jolt of the engines failing caused an immediate sense of panic. Flight attendants rushed through the aisles, attempting to calm the passengers and prepare them for impact. The gravity of the situation became evident, and some passengers began to pray, while others held hands or braced themselves for the worst. "Brace for impact," Sullenberger shouted over the intercom, urging everyone to prepare. The cabin filled with a mixture of fear and hope as everyone took their positions, gripping the seat backs in front of them. With only seconds left, Sullenberger focused intently on the water ahead. He knew that the key to survival lay in executing a precise landing. The plane touched down on the surface of the Hudson River with a thud, skimming the water as it lost speed. The sound of rushing water filled the cabin, and the aircraft began to take on water. Chapter 4: The Impact. Upon impact, passengers experienced a sudden jolt as the aircraft slid across the river's surface. Water rushed into the cabin, quickly soaking the seats and flooring. The emergency lights flickered on, illuminating the chaos that had erupted. The plane came to a stop, and the reality of the situation began to sink in. "Get out! Get out!" Sullenberger shouted, urging the passengers to evacuate. The flight attendants sprang into action, opening the emergency exits and directing everyone to the inflatable slides. Panic ensued as passengers scrambled to escape the sinking aircraft. In the midst of the chaos, Sullenberger remained calm and collected, ensuring that everyone was accounted for. He made his way through the cabin, assisting passengers and encouraging them to leave the plane. As the freezing water filled the aircraft, he realized that time was of the essence. One by one, passengers emerged from the aircraft, sliding down the inflatable rafts and into the frigid waters of the Hudson. Some were hesitant, but the sight of the river rushing into the cabin motivated them to act. Sullenberger ensured that as many people as possible made it out safely before he finally exited the plane himself. Chapter 5: The Rescue. As the passengers gathered on the inflatable slides, the reality of their circumstances began to settle in. The frigid January waters were numbing, and the shock of the situation left many feeling helpless. However, the response from first responders was swift. Nearby boats and rescue teams quickly arrived on the scene, ready to assist. The U.S. Coast Guard, police boats and private vessels raced to the scene, rescuing passengers from the icy waters and bringing them to safety. The image of the Airbus A320 partially submerged in the Hudson became iconic, symbolizing the miraculous survival of all those on board. As the rescue teams worked tirelessly to pull passengers from the water, the stories of heroism began to emerge. Many passengers helped one another, offering support and comfort in the face of adversity. Some even waded back into the water to assist those who were struggling, demonstrating the incredible strength of the human spirit. Chapter 6. The aftermath. Within minutes, all 155 passengers and crew members were safely rescued, and the news of the miracle on the Hudson spread rapidly. Media outlets flooded with reports, and the world watched in awe as the story unfolded. Captain Sullenberger and First Officer Skiles became instant heroes, celebrated for their quick thinking and composure under pressure. In the days that followed, investigations began to piece together the events leading up to the incident. The National Transportation Safety Board launched a thorough investigation into the causes of the bird strike and the subsequent decision-making process in the cockpit. The aviation community scrutinized every detail to understand how such a crisis could occur and how to prevent similar situations in the future. Meanwhile, the passengers were left to process their traumatic experience. Many sought counseling and support to cope with the emotional aftermath of the crash. The sense of gratitude for their survival was intertwined with the reality of their harrowing ordeal. Survivors shared their stories, highlighting the moments of connection and courage that emerged during the crisis. Chapter 7. The Legacy of Flight 1549. The story of Flight 1549 transcended the immediate incident. It sparked discussions about aviation safety, emergency preparedness, and the importance of training pilots to handle emergencies. Captain Sullenberger and First Officer Skiles became advocates for aviation safety, sharing their experiences and emphasizing the need for continuous improvement in the industry. In the years that followed, the aviation community took significant steps to enhance safety measures, including improved bird strike prevention strategies and better communication protocols for pilots during emergencies. The legacy of Flight 1549 served as a reminder of the importance of preparedness and the need to prioritize passenger safety above all else. Captain Sullenberger published a memoir titled Highest Duty, detailing his experiences and the lessons learned from the incident. He emphasized the importance of teamwork, communication, and resilience in the face of adversity. His story inspired countless individuals, serving as a beacon of hope and a testament to the power of human courage. Chapter 8. Reflections on survival. Years after the incident, the passengers of Flight 1549 continued to reflect on their experience. Many formed lasting bonds with one another, united by the shared trauma of that fateful day. Reunions were organized, allowing survivors to reconnect and support one another as they navigated the complexities of their emotions. The impact of the event extended beyond the individuals directly involved. The story of the miracle on the Hudson became a source of inspiration for those facing challenges in their own lives. It served as a reminder that even in the darkest moments, hope and resilience can prevail. In interviews and public appearances, survivors spoke candidly about their experiences, sharing their thoughts on gratitude, survival, and the fragility of life. They emphasized the importance of cherishing every moment and the value of human connection in times of crisis. Chapter 9. The broader impact on aviation. The miracle on the Hudson had a profound effect on the aviation industry, prompting regulatory changes and improvements in safety protocols. The incident underscored the necessity of proper training for pilots and cabin crew in emergency situations. Aviation organizations began to re-evaluate and enhance their training programs, ensuring that crews were equipped to handle crises with confidence. Furthermore, the incident spurred advancements in aircraft design and technology. Engineers began to explore ways to minimize the risks associated with bird strikes, leading to improved designs and materials in aircraft engines. The industry recognized that the safety of passengers relied not only on pilot training but also on the engineering and design of the aircraft itself. The story of Flight 1549 was also featured in various documentaries, films, and television programs, further solidifying its place in aviation history. The dramatic events of that day captivated audiences, and the resilience of the human spirit became a central theme in the retelling of the story. Chapter 10. Conclusion. The miracle on the Hudson remains a powerful testament to human courage, quick thinking, and the will to survive. The events of January 15, 2009, serve as a reminder of the unpredictability of life and the importance of preparedness in the face of adversity. Captain Sullenberger and First Officer Skiles exemplified the qualities of leadership and professionalism that are essential in times of crisis. As we reflect on the remarkable story of Flight 1549, we honor the passengers and crew who faced the unimaginable and emerged with their lives. Their experiences remind us of the strength of the human spirit and the profound impact of community and support during challenging times. The legacy of the miracle on the Hudson will continue to inspire future generations, serving as a beacon of hope and resilience in the face of adversity. It stands as a reminder that even in the most difficult circumstances, courage and determination can lead to incredible outcomes. The Boston Marathon bombing and its aftermath. Prologue. April 15, 2013, began like any other Patriots' Day in Boston. The air was filled with anticipation as thousands gathered to celebrate the Boston Marathon, a storied tradition that had been taking place since 1897. Runners from around the world lined up at the starting line, and spectators filled the streets, eager to support their friends, family, and fellow athletes. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement, but no one could have anticipated the tragedy that was about to unfold. As the clock approached 2:50 p.m., 2 pressure cooker bombs detonated near the finish line, transforming a day of celebration into one of chaos and heartbreak. The explosions claimed 3 lives and injured over 260 others, leading to a nationwide manhunt for the perpetrators. The events that followed would not only change Boston but also reshape America's approach to security, law enforcement, and the very fabric of civil liberty. The day of the bombing, the marathon had drawn a record number of participants that year, and the streets were alive with energy. Families lined the sidewalks, waving flags and holding signs, while the runners pushed through the 26.2-mile course, a testament to human endurance and spirit. Among the crowd were friends and family members of the runners, including a young woman named Crystal Campbell, who had come to cheer for her best friend. At 2:49 p.m., the first bomb exploded near the finish line. The sound of the blast echoed through the streets, followed by a plume of smoke and chaos as spectators turned to see what had happened. Seconds later, a second bomb detonated just a few feet away, creating a scene of devastation. The explosions were designed to inflict maximum damage, with metal shrapnel flying through the air, injuring those who were standing nearby. In the immediate aftermath, confusion reigned. First responders rushed to the scene, and the sound of sirens filled the air. Medical personnel set up triage stations, tending to the wounded as bystanders attempted to help those in need. The grim reality of the situation quickly became clear as the injured were transported to local hospitals, some in critical condition. Among the casualties was Crystal Campbell, who had come to support her friend. She was killed in the blast, along with 8-year-old Martin Richard and 29-year-old Lindsay Liu. The tragedy struck at the heart of the city, leaving families shattered and the community in mourning. The immediate response as news of the bombing spread, the nation watched in horror. The media descended on Boston, broadcasting live coverage of the events as they unfolded. The city went into lockdown as authorities worked to secure the area and gather information about the attacks. The FBI quickly took charge of the investigation, launching a massive manhunt to find those responsible. Within hours, investigators began to piece together the details of the bombing. They reviewed video footage from the marathon and surrounding businesses, searching for clues that would lead them to the perpetrators. Social media exploded with images and videos from witnesses, and the hashtag Boston Strong began to trend as people expressed their solidarity with the victims. As the investigation progressed, law enforcement officials released photos of two suspects captured on surveillance cameras. Dzhokhar and Tamerlan Tsarnaev, brothers of Chechen descent, were identified as the bombers. The authorities urged the public to remain vigilant, asking anyone with information to come forward. The manhunt the days following the bombing were marked by fear and uncertainty as Boston remained on high alert. The Tsarnaev brothers were still at large, and the FBI warned that they were considered armed and dangerous. The search intensified as law enforcement agencies from across the country joined forces to track them down. On April 18, 2013, just 3 days after the bombing, the situation escalated dramatically. A shootout erupted between the Tsarnaev brothers and police in Watertown, a suburb of Boston. During the confrontation, Tamerlan Tsarnaev was killed, but Dzhokhar managed to escape, leading to a citywide lockdown as authorities searched for him. Residents were instructed to stay indoors as SWAT teams and law enforcement scoured the neighborhood for any sign of Dzhokhar. The tension was palpable and the sense of fear was overwhelming. In the days that followed, the community came together, sharing information and supporting each other in the face of uncertainty. On April 19, 2013, after an exhaustive search that lasted nearly 24 hours, a resident in Watertown noticed something unusual in his backyard, a tarp covering a bloodied figure. He immediately contacted the authorities, leading to the capture of Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. The once bustling city of Boston was now a scene of both relief and somber reflection. The manhunt had concluded, but the impact of the tragedy would resonate for years to come. The aftermath, the capture of Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, marked the beginning of a long and complex legal process. He was charged with multiple counts of murder and terrorism, and the nation watched closely as the case unfolded. The trial would become a focal point of media attention, raising questions about justice, accountability, and the implications of terrorism in America. As the legal proceedings progressed, the victims and their families grappled with the aftermath of the tragedy. Crystal Campbell's family sought to honor her memory by advocating for victims of violence. Martin Richards' family established a foundation in his name, focusing on promoting kindness and peace in the community. Lindsay Lou's family also sought to keep her memory alive, sharing her story and the impact she had on those around her. In the months that followed the bombing, the city of Boston began to heal. Memorials were established to honor the victims, and the phrase "Boston Strong" became a rallying cry for resilience and unity. The Boston Marathon resumed in 2014, with heightened security measures in place and a renewed sense of purpose among the participants and spectators. The community came together in support of those affected by the bombing. Fundraisers were organized to assist the victims and their families, and local businesses offered support through donations and services. The city's spirit shone through as residents rallied to support one another, proving that even in the face of tragedy, hope could prevail. The trial, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev's trial, began in January 2015, drawing national attention and sparking heated debates about justice and the death penalty. The prosecution presented a case that highlighted the devastating impact of the bombings, while the defense sought to portray Tsarnaev as a young man influenced by his older brother and caught up in a larger narrative. Throughout the trial, the families of the victims were present, listening to the harrowing details of the attack and the stories of those who had been affected. The emotional toll was immense, as they confronted the reality of their loss and the pain that lingered from that fateful day. In April 2015, Tsarnaev was found guilty on all counts, including the use of a weapon of mass destruction and the murder of the 3 victims. The jury ultimately sentenced him to death, marking a significant moment in the ongoing quest for justice. The ruling reignited discussions about the death penalty in the United States, with many advocating for reform and others arguing for its necessity in cases of terrorism. As the legal battles continued, Tsarnaev's defense team filed appeals, and the case made its way through the courts. The aftermath of the bombing continued to shape discussions about terrorism, civil liberties, and the balance between national security and individual rights. Reflections on resilience. As the years passed, the impact of the Boston Marathon bombing remained a defining moment for the city and the nation. Survivors and families of the victims shared their stories, advocating for change and raising awareness about the importance of community support. The resilience of the Boston community became a symbol of hope, reminding people of the strength that can emerge from tragedy. In 2016, the Richard family launched the Martin Richard Foundation, dedicated to promoting kindness and inclusivity. The foundation aimed to honor Martin's legacy by inspiring others to be compassionate and proactive in their communities. The foundation's work resonated deeply with many, as it focused on creating positive change in a world that could often feel dark. Similarly, Crystal Campbell's family established a scholarship in her name, supporting students pursuing education in the arts. Lindsay Lou's family also sought to keep her memory alive by sharing her story and promoting educational initiatives in her honor. The annual Boston Marathon became a celebration of resilience, with participants and spectators coming together to honor the victims and celebrate the spirit of the city. The event transformed from a mere race into a powerful symbol of community and strength, embodying the phrase "Boston Strong." Conclusion. The Boston Marathon bombing of 2013 was a tragic event that left an indelible mark on the city and the nation. The story of loss and resilience resonates deeply, as it highlights the strength of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable adversity. The aftermath of the bombing served as a reminder of the importance of community, support, and the quest for justice. As we reflect on the events of that fateful day, we honor the memory of the victims and celebrate the resilience of Boston. The city emerged from the shadows of tragedy, standing strong against the forces that sought to divide and instill fear. The legacy of the Boston Marathon bombing continues to inspire individuals and communities to come together, fostering a spirit of hope and determination in the face of darkness. The story of the Boston Marathon bombing is not just one of tragedy but also one of hope, resilience, and the enduring power of humanity to rise above challenges. It serves as a reminder that even in the darkest moments, light can emerge, and communities can come together to create a brighter future.